Scottish Football Social Club is brought to you by McBookie.com. Take a lookie at McBookie today.
Hello everyone and welcome along to a festive edition of the Scottish Football Social Club on Premier Sports in association with McBookie. Alan Hutton and Michael Stewart here as always, very much in Christmas spirit. I'm informed. Michael, no bah humbug from you. There might be some VAR humbug later on, but no bah humbug from you, Michael, tonight. Is that okay?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Good,
no.
Good. Al, are you ready for Christmas?
Getting there. Still got a couple of things to do tomorrow, so I'm sure it's going to be a little bit of mayhem. But that's what Christmas is all about. Really, we should have had a Christmas jumper night, thinking about it now.
I'd have a little bit of red on. I know it's woeful, isn't it? We should have done better than this.
We should have done better.
Listen. Just
that looks a wee bit more brown, Daryl, than red. It looks a bit brown.
Well, this...
Give you burgundy.
It's the lighting. It's just it's poor lighting in here. Before we get into anything else football related, before we went live there, we were just talking Christmas Day and the family that are coming round to see us and who's cooking and everything else and what's being prepared. And Alan, my word, you've got 13 coming round and you're doing most of the cooking. Is this true?
Yep, 13 coming round for Christmas dinner. So I'll probably be doing a good 80% of it. My wife will pick up the rest. So yeah, teamwork makes the dream work.
I'm a good helper. Michael, what about you?
Yeah, I'm with you, Daryl. I just like to help out. I do a lot of the cleaning up, perhaps.
Good.
I just want to ask Hutch, though. I heard a wee rumour. You've been drafted in by Philippe Clement to help out Nico Raskin with his cooking.
Oh, leave it out. Come on.
Surely not. Listen, if he can cook for 13 on Christmas Day, he can do anything, by the way. That is impressive. Seriously,
no, what you do is you just don't get stressed out. That's what it's all about. Just keep a calm head, work through it, and don't worry. Easy. I'm
okay as well. I have to. I mean, my wife might tell you different, but I think I'm okay in the kitchen. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see how Christmas Day goes.
I'm exactly the same. I'm with you. And I'm pretty positive that Susie would be saying the exact opposite. You're a shambles.
You are a shambles. Right. Let's get into the football. Let's start with a match played yesterday, Michael, if that's okay, with the Jambos, because you said last week it was must win for Neil Critchley and for Hearts against St Johnstone. They got the 3 points that was necessary. Did you like the performance, Michael? And what does this mean now for Hearts and for Neil Critchley, the fact they're off bottom of the table? Do you think better times are coming?
Well, I mean, certainly it's all positives from yesterday. There's no doubt about that. The performance, the result, the fact they're off the bottom of the table. It was good, but you've got to caveat it at the moment because of where the club have been this season so far. They were playing against a team that were directly above them, so at the bottom of the table, and they've got the derby around the corner now. All the sort of positivity that's been picked up off the back of this result that can multiply, exponentially if they win the derby, but equally lose the derby and it counts for nothing. In fact, lose the derby and it goes lower than it was before. I feel so. It's like Hibs have been, in the last month or so, constantly talking about how it's on a knife edge. Good performance, results have been a bit better. Then the Ross County game came along and the performance was terrible, but the result was good. You're just constantly having to back up the performance and results, and Hibs have done that, to be fair to them. Hearts need to keep doing that now. And to be honest, there's no better game than the derby, but it is a massive double-edged sword in that sense.
Yeah, and if we have a look at the goals against St Johnstone and the highlights from this game as well, just coming into this game, Michael, off the back of a disaster in Europe, which quite frankly it was financially and on the night as well. The atmosphere at Tynecastle during the week wasn't great. This was vital. And when they get pegged back in the game, you started to wonder after this handball, didn't you? You started to wonder, is this going to be one of these days again for Neil Critchley and Hearts? But they did get over the line.
And they did. It's quite incredible for Penrice that he's conceded 3 penalty kicks in the last 3 games. I don't know when the last time that sort of started.
He's been superb as well, individually.
He's been good. Him and Blair Spittle, who obviously scores the winner, a fantastic goal that we're just about to see here. The two of them have been the bright sparks for Hearts really this season, down that left-hand side in particular. So, look, the game during the week, to touch on that, it was a disaster. The performance was murder. The result was brutal, and the ramifications are huge because that is I mean, I don't want to be too critical of Neil Critchley on this because there's been a positive result at the weekend. But you've surely got to play your strongest team in that game on Thursday. I just don't. I don't understand why, for the likes of Spittle, Boateng, we're not playing. I can't get my head around that Petroclub were not a good team, and to have not beaten them and not get through the knockout stages, the playoff game, brings huge financial, incentive and bonuses towards the club. I can't get my head around that.
No.
Do you think Neil thought he had enough? Do you reckon that's why he changed, or did he have one eye on the games coming up? What do you think?
He probably did, Hearts, but for me, the situation Hearts are in, you can't start thinking about the next game. And the European game, as much as like the league is desperate, right? We're not even halfway through the league.
There's time, exactly.
There's time to be able to get yourself out of that. If you win that European game, you get the huge financial windfall, and it keeps the season ticking along. That sort of carrot that continues to be sort of there in the horizon for the club. I can't fathom it out. But it was a positive game at the weekend. Really good result, good performance, and they need to back it up now against Hibs.
Cammy Devlin was good in the match. He's been good recently. Forrester as well, the right back, the young right back who came back in. Michael, I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot of them. Great ball for the goal.
By the way, and it was hard.
It was, yeah.
The ball was still bouncing. It's hard to do.
Yeah, I'm just wondering on Forrester why he doesn't. I know he's young, and sometimes you've got to give them time. But another one, I just thought he was a certainty to start all the big matches at the moment because every time he's played, pretty much, Michael, it looks to me like he's performed.
Yeah, I would agree. That one, yeah. I mean, look, I'm agreeing with you in terms of if you're the game against Petroclub. I'm looking at it thinking you've got to play your best 11.
Yeah,
you've got to play, and I don't think he did. Forrester, for me, at the moment, if I'm picking my best 11, he would be right back. So I would agree with that. The caveat to that is slightly that I think we all recognise that you can't expect him to be playing 30, 40 games this season. He's going to play 15, 20 games, and that's brilliant. 18, 19-year-old, 15, 20 games this season, spot on, perfect.
But if he's your best right back, play him in the biggest games.
Yes, I would. I would.
And that experience as well, that experience is only going to take him to the next level. I think when you are young, I totally agree with what you're saying. If he was to play every single game, when you're young, you do your form dips a little bit, you go up and down, and that's just the inconsistencies that you have when you're young. But for him to play the number of games I think he will this season, maybe 15, 20, whatever it is, for him to then kick on into next season, I think just really stands him in good stead moving forward.
Right. We'll move back to the Edinburgh Derby upcoming, which looks tasty, doesn't it, Alan?
And
Hibs in just a minute. It's a massive game. But just a brief one on St Johnstone, Michael, and what Valakari's done since he's come in. How would you assess his time there so far?
Concerning.
Inconsistent.
Yeah, it's concerning because there's a wee bit of naivety as well. I'm all for trying to be progressive and playing good football, but there's a certain degree of naivety the way that they're setting up and playing. Like Kimpioka, for example, out in the wider areas. Obviously, Nicky Clark wasn't playing at the weekend, but they've played with almost 4 out-and-out strikers at times, and that's not a balanced team. If you're being realistic, and also they're looking to play, a lot of good passing football, but there's clearly some players there that they're not totally comfortable with it. Now, I hate that. I'm always contradicting myself here in terms of I hate that sort of narrative of they're not good enough to play. All football players want to play, right? They want to play. Even guys that are not brilliant on the ball, a centre half, for example. But the key is that all the players are actually looking and wanting the ball. And for a spell on Sunday yesterday at Tynecastle, you could just get a sense that not everybody's really looking for it. And that happens sometimes at, hostile environments. So then you've got to be able to actually use your brain a little bit and just box clever. And I just think at times they're setting themselves up for a fault when they need to be a wee bit smarter about how they're setting up. And 4 strikers, I know it didn't happen yesterday, but 4 strikers in your team, Kim Pioka out on the left, taking too many touches. I just think I like his ideology, Valakari, but I think in reality, he needs to just get the balance a bit better in his team.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't want
I
to be
think you
playing
could
great
see
football and get relegated, do you, Al?
No, but of course, but I think that's what the one thing that I noticed from when he did obviously come in and take the job, that he did try and play football. He was trying to kind of break lines and be more expansive and stuff. But Mikey's right. I think that's the bottom of the league now. I don't think they've got a win in the last 4, only 1 draw. I mean, it's nice playing good football, but ultimately you need results or you're going to go down. I mean, in the form that they're in, that's where they're at this moment in time. So inconsistent, but to have 4 strikers on the pitch and trying to just be too expansive at times just doesn't work for them.
No. Right, Alan, as promised, back to the Edinburgh Derby. Given the way Hibs have just performed at the weekend against Aberdeen, whose favourites got into the game?
Oh, I'm going to stick my neck in the line and say Hibs, me. I mean, see, I've looked back, obviously, and we've done this every week from, remember the 3 each game? Yeah. I just thought from there was signs that they were showing character. They went through a lot, dip in form, yes, everything. But it feels like they're turning a corner. You look at goal. Yeah, but you look at the way they're playing at this moment in time, like Martin Boyle, for an example. See if you can keep him at that level. He's a constant nuisance for people. He's got 2 assists, 1 goal in the game, obviously, at the weekend, and he just looked full of confidence. Players looked like they wanted to get on the ball. Some of the defending and stuff for the goals wasn't great, and I thought Aberdeen actually started the game well. Like, you look here, O'Hara needs to stay in his position. He just needs to drop back. It makes it easy for Keskinen. Look, Bashiri tries to get a block on it there, but it's kind of unlucky here. I mean, that is just an absolute mess. Yeah. Malloy doesn't win the first header. Rubezic then air shot here. I mean, just clear your lines. I don't know what he's thinking. But Boyle, cool, calm and collected. Into Youant, good finish. So I thought over the piece, Hibs done well. I mean, Aberdeen, what's that, 6 games now without a win.
Keskinen was unlucky there, but those breaks are not going for them at the moment, Alan.
No, but that was the difference. See, if you look at the start of the season, there was games where they weren't playing brilliant. This is a great ball, and Cadden at the back post, great finish. But there was times at the beginning of the season, like up at Ross County when they get the last minute goal, things like that. It was going for them. They were getting the rub of the green, and I just think at this moment in time, it's not quite happening. And they play themselves into trouble. I mean, you see like the goal there. I think it's Clarkson gets caught on the ball, or he gives it away. It's a poor pass, and then they're jumping all over it and scoring. But Hibs are looking good at this moment in time, and that's why I make them slight favourites.
Looks like the Martin Boyle of old, doesn't it, Michael? Taking goals like that.
Certainly. I mean, the game on Saturday at Pittodrie, it was the Martin Boyle of old. I mean, the big problem for Hibs is that that's not been the case this season so far. But Al's right. I mean, if you've got Martin Boyle performing at that level, then he's a huge asset, massive. There's going to be some big team selection calls for David Gray on Boxing Day. Big calls.
But who are you picking? Who are you going for?
Come on, exactly.
What way are you going?
Well, I mean, to be honest, whether Kukarevic is available or back, that then would obviously throw in another option. But to be honest, even if he was back, after the performance Martin Boyle's put in there, I don't think you can look, you can't look past him. In the middle of the park, I mean, look, talking about how Hibs have improved, the big thing that sort of stuck out for me at the weekend at Pittodrie was that defensively, especially, I was already looked at it there. O'Hara was a horrible mistake to begin with. But as the game sort of progressed, they were a lot more aggressive. They were higher up the park, and they were a lot more of a collective unit. Those gaps that you've seen in the Hibs team, and in this season so far, it wasn't as apparent. They were a much better unit. They were pressing higher up the park, and perhaps that's actually taken a bit of the pressure off of the back line there, because they were winning a lot more balls higher up the park. The defence weren't actually being put under as much pressure. The midfield, you saw for the Martin Boyle goal, Triantis does brilliant. He
was excellent.
Yeah, he was. He read the game well, but it felt like the whole emphasis was front foot, aggressive, and it worked for them. Now, that's a tough game, at Pittodrie. they're going to Tynecastle, which, you know, you on the face of it, you look at it and go, it's tougher, it's a derby, but it's the same sort of idea, going away from home, big rival. They need to just replicate, you know, if they can replicate that sort of performance, then they're going to be in a wonderful position to go and pick up 3 points there.
So who's the favourite, Michael?
He's just beating around the bush. Tell us what you think.
I didn't know you were asking me who's favourite.
We asked.
Straight up.
Did you?
Asked you.
So I didn't hear you.
Been on the eggnog.
I would say this game is genuinely right down the middle.
Oh, come on.
I can't believe it.
Genuinely, and I'll give you the reasons, right? Normally, going into an Edinburgh derby, I would say that the general thesis is that Hearts have the edge. They have that mentality of, like, even regardless how the season's going, they feel that they're a wee bit more positive going into a derby. I get the feeling that Hibs are feeling a wee bit quietly confident here, and Hearts are still just on the edge. They're not totally sure of what's happening here yet. It's at Tynecastle, which sort of sways it a wee bit more back to Hearts again, but that's what I'm saying to you. For me, right down the middle, this could be anything, but the ramifications of it are massive. They're massive. If Hearts lose this game to Hibs, I don't know where it leaves them. And the
You're
manager.
not calling a draw here, are you? 50-50 and all that.
It's never going to be a draw.
No, I'm not calling a draw. I'm saying it's right down the middle. Anybody.
If you had to back one team, who are you backing?
What, sorry?
If you had to back one team, who are you backing?
Oh, I honestly don't know. I don't
Can
know.
you at least have a go? Because when you get it wrong next week, we can at least pull you up on it.
That's why I don't know.
I always get forced into it when it comes to Rangers and Celtic games and stuff. I need to tell you that it's going to be this score and this is going to happen.
We need an answer.
That's not difficult, that one, is it?
Aye.
It was tricky. It was tricky last week, quicker than you thought.
Exactly.
I think that Hibs marginally.
Right, we got there in the end. It's only taking 5 minutes.
And by the way, just on Hibs, just on both of you actually, but I'm going to direct this at Michael, Alan, if that's okay. Because since you hammered them, the way they performed, and Ellie Johan as well, that day against Dundee, you were there. Since you hammered them, Michael, they must watch the show, the players, because there's been a good response.
Obviously, Darryl. Look, by the way, I think everybody that had 2 eyes and 2 ears watching that game would have come away thinking the exact same. And look, we said afterwards as well, you know, with the Aberdeen game that ended up 3-3, you've got to give them a bit of credit. They showed grit and determination. There's been the Motherwell performance they backed up, brilliant. And, you know, when you look at those games, right? Aberdeen 3-3, Motherwell, they bagged another 3 goals. They then obviously lost to Celtic, but they've just scored another 3 away at Pittodrie.
And by the way, they could have scored in that Celtic game.
I know they could have.
The chances.
And
Michael was man of the match.
And Ross County, obviously, in there as well. So 4 of the last 5 games, they've scored 3 goals. They hadn't scored 3 goals in a single game up until that point, and that was a major problem for them. The defence was clearly an issue because they were conceding far too many goals, but I think it sort of floated under the radar a wee bit how poor they were in the goal-scoring charts. They weren't scoring. They weren't scoring enough goals. So
they were doing keepy-uppies, Michael.
What?
They were doing keepy-uppies.
There was about 10 of them. There was about 10 at least.
Didn't he, you know, he's still playing. He's playing every week. He obviously scored against Aberdeen there, but
he's done better since then.
He has.
He's done better since then.
Hutz, if you were a manager, would you pick him?
Depends what your options are.
Oh, no, did he? No.
On recent form?
Remember the Duke situation earlier this season, Alan? And we praised Yemi Talene, the way he handled that in the end, and he brought him back into the side when he needed to. Sometimes, if you know a player's talented, you just have to find a way to try and get the best out of him.
I think there's certain players, I sometimes call them mavericks, that they get a little bit of leeway. And maybe David Gray thinks he's one of those guys that could change a game and feels like to have him in. The keep up situation, it would have frustrated the life out of me. I'd have possibly taken him off then. But look, after everything that's come his way, the stick, the falling out with the fans, everything, he's turned up in recent games. So, that is what
A
it
bit
is.
of credit. A bit of credit where credit's
Yeah,
due, Michael. You
credit
had your
where
head in your
credit's
hands.
due,
Can we
aye.
give him a bit of credit?
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Right.
Oh,
Enough
move on.
said. Enough said. Right, listen, just before we move on, a lot more to get through. Alan, you've just mentioned this. Michael, for you, one on the Dons, please. We talked a lot about this, maybe this race for second throughout this season. And obviously Rangers have now pulled clear, and Alan's obviously thinking the title race is back on. But Michael, what about the Dons? Genuinely, is there any concern that they could really fall away, or is it fractions at the moment, difference between getting a result and not?
Well, it is fine margins, but when the fine margins continually sort of get added back to back, it becomes a bigger issue. It's 6 without a win. They're away to Kilmarnock on Boxing Day, and then they've got Dundee United on Premier Sports at Tannadice on the 29th.
Huge game now, yeah.
So there's 2 really big games back to back away from home that you're looking at the moment and going, that's tough. Whereas if you rewind, 6 weeks ago, you'd be looking at those 2 games and going, brilliant, bring them on. So the psychology is huge in football. It is a concern for Aberdeen, not over the full course of the season, because they're a quality team. They've got good players, they've got a good manager. But in regards to that second spot in the league, they've squandered that credit that they had in the bank.
Well, think about it. It wasn't that long ago. What was it? There were 8 points. Was it 8? Something like that in front of Rangers? 9.
Yeah.
And then it just shows you a dip in form. You're not quite, things aren't going your way. As you say, no win in 6. And it's difficult. That's the thing. So remember when we were doing the games at the start and they went on this incredible run and people were like, oh, they're going to challenge Celtic. That's it. It's going to be a 2-horse race between them and Celtic. It's hard to go the course of a season and keep that standard up. And look, that's what they're finding out now.
Momentum, a remarkable thing in football, isn't it? Momentum. Look at Hibs at the moment. Aberdeen just don't have it. Let's move on. I just mentioned the potential title race. Alan, after Celtic dropped points, is there any way back in for Rangers? And what did you make of Celtic's performance in tough conditions? And by the way, full credit to Jim Goodwin and Dundee United as well, because you saw it at Ibrox not long ago. The way he sets them up, they are hard to break down at times.
Yeah, and look, I think fair play to Jim Goodwin and his team. I think they've done really well this season coming back into the league. And they set up to frustrate. You're going to do that. You're going to try and make it hard for the opposition. I think from a Celtic point of view, yes, they were missing players. There was seemingly an illness going round about. But I think that's when you really see what they have. Like, we talk about their strength and depth. Like Sakun, I thought was a huge miss.
Yeah.
Alistair Johnson was a huge miss down that right-hand side. I think they kind of lacked that creativity in the kind of final third, what we were normally seeing them doing, get to the byline, cutting balls back, playing sharp 1-2s. We didn't really see it. Palmer came on. Nah, not for me. I don't think he'd done enough.
There was a lot of going backwards.
Yeah, and
inside, wasn't there?
It just looked like he didn't have that confidence that the likes of Kuhn and these guys have. So, look, their players were, of course, a massive miss, but I think a lot of credit needs to go to Dundee United. And look, they didn't have a lot going forward. They tried to, like, towards the end of the game to maybe nick it, but from a Celtic point of view, not great, but still in a really good position at this moment in time.
Oh, fantastic position they're in. Michael, we picked out a couple of highlights, maybe lowlights. There were a couple in the match. Look, I think it was probably Kyogo with the big chance, and unlike Kyogo, he just couldn't sort his feet out. Look, maybe easy thing to, maybe the wind had something to do with this, because it was blustering right across the pitch. But he just didn't get himself sorted, did he?
I mean, I've watched it and looked at it so many times. I can't quite figure out, what it is that's happened. Because he looks like he's set his body perfectly.
I just say
guide it with his left foot.
Right.
I don't know. And then I'm looking and I'm thinking, is it maybe the defender that's trying to get back on the line that he's maybe looked at and thought he's going to block the shot, and all of a sudden it happens like that, and and he's fluffed it. But it was a great move. I just thought.
So was the Engels one, by the way. Obviously, that saved at the end.
Yeah, Walton, a good save. It was a good save.
It wasn't much better than that for Celtic.
No, well, it wasn't. I mean, I think they only had 3 shots on target, and a couple.
Which is incredible.
I think it was only one at half time. I think it was only 1 shot on goal at half time. So credit to Dundee United because I thought they defended admirably. They were, even when Celtic were in and around the box, looking to carve them open, they weren't passive. And sometimes when you see teams that are dropping deep, they can look like they're in a position and they become a bit passive in their defending. I thought Dundee United were really good, even though they were very compact and difficult to break down, of still being tight. They were closing Celtic down. They didn't let any of the players sort of have time on the ball to pick passes, which is not an easy thing to do.
And the fullbacks were good.
Yes. Yep.
They were
very good.
Stop that threat, because the wide players for Celtic, I know it was changed up, but they're very dangerous and they can be very dangerous. So if you kind of stifle them and take that away from them, that threat, then you've got half a chance.
Ryan Strain, I've for a number of years when he was at St Mirren as well, I think he's a very, very good player, particularly going forward and throwing balls into the box, because I think his delivery is great. But like Alan's talking about, in a defensive sense, at the weekend there, I thought he showed really good performance in that. From Celtic, is that continual sort of?
There's just been a wee dip, hasn't there, Michael? Would you say there's just been a little dip in performances? Going back to the European game, was it in Zagreb? And Celtic fans will say against Rangers they didn't play to the highest capabilities as well.
A wee bit. I think that's a fair assessment. There's been a slight drop off, and it's those fine margins that make all the difference. It's a 0-0 at Tannadice instead of perhaps one of those moments the ball flies in the back of the net and all of a sudden it's a 1-0 victory. Still performing well. I was going to say it's that continual conundrum, certainly from my side perspective, where I thought Luke McCowan was good. I thought he was good in the first half in particular. I thought he was the one that was really looking to make things happen. Had a couple of really good strikes that didn't hit the target and test the goalkeeper as much as he would have wanted to. But I thought he was the one that really looked like he was constantly going to make something happen. But he doesn't play the 90 minutes. Celtic have got no concerns domestically. Their big challenge is obviously, in a similar sense, I know it's obviously going to be in the new year, but with Hearts in the Conference League, there was that constant thing in the back of the mind, there's Petro Club at home, last game. They'll get through with that. Celtic may well be all right with the points they've got. They may well get through. But I think there's always been that feeling of, they've got young boys. That'll be fine. They need to just go out and make sure that performance is on point. And to go back to what you were just saying, with things just tapering ever so slightly, you can't afford any fall off. You need to be getting those 3 points against young boys just to confirm and have no doubt about it. Because the European stuff, make no mistake about it, is the barometer for Celtic just now.
Yeah, and if Nicholas Kuhn did have a lengthy injury, then that clearly would be a concern, because he has been fantastic this season. Michael's favourite player in Europe. Michael said you've got to prove it in your Champions League form, and he's done that, and he's been absolutely phenomenal, and he was a miss at the weekend. Onwards, let's not let Michael in. Onwards, Alan, to Rangers against Dundee. A game that maybe Rangers could have won by more goals, maybe should have won by more goals, hit the bar, didn't they, a couple of times. But in the end, it's 3 points, and I guess that the sort of line of positivity, if you like, continues for Rangers and Philip Clement, despite losing the cup the way they played. There's a bit of positivity around at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still in this space where he has changed the formation. I think the likes of Danilo coming back in, Hadji coming in has been a plus. Of course, there's a huge disappointment losing the cup final, but you need to get on with it, you need to go again. And I thought in the first half, Rangers, of course, had all the possession. I just thought they were a little bit... People were taking too many touches. Yes, they've got all different options in the forward line, but Hadji, you see here, hitting the bar, I think it was 4 times all in. Tavernier, great free kick. But I just thought at times, because Dundee were dropping back into that 5-4-1, when they didn't move the ball really quickly, this was the start of the second half, they went in and they defended well. So once they got this goal, I thought it was probably going to open up. And it did to a certain extent, I think, because Dundee did try to offer a little bit more going forward, which opened them up, which created gaps for Rangers to go and exploit. Look, he should do better. He needs to score there. When you're playing kind of central striker for Rangers, you have to be putting them away. But look, it happens. Overall, I think it was good that they got the 3 points. That's the main objective, to just keep this run going. But the manager will want to see them put the foot down and go and get the second and third. But again, defensively, I thought Dundee done decent, especially in the first half. But it's another 3 points.
Yeah, and obviously, look, just looking at those highlights, Alan, it does look like Rangers could have won the game 3-4-0. Dundee did have a couple of opportunities, half chances towards the end of the game, which made it nervy around Ibrox. And that's the problem. And if you think back throughout this season, Rangers, sometimes when teams have sat deep against them in that low block, especially when they've come to Ibrox, they have found those games especially tricky. And maybe it isn't moving the ball fast enough like they did against Kilmarnock at Ibrox a few weeks ago. Maybe that is the problem. But those sort of setups do cause Rangers trouble. Yeah,
it does. There's no getting away from that fact. When they do sit in deep and they've got their banks of 4 or 5 or whatever it may be, that they find it hard. And I just think the way they do play with just the one sitter and Raskin, and then there's a real freedom with especially the 4 and then Diamandi as well to move. Sometimes they do the same thing. You've got Cherny coming off short, you've got Hadji coming off short. You always need to make sure you've got runners going in behind. And I think some of these guys want to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touches and then play it. And then that gives the opposition a chance to get back in their shape. But when they move it quickly and it's 1, 2 touch and it's really quick and they get it in behind, that's when they create all their opportunities. You don't allow the team that you're playing against time to set up. So when they do that, that's when they look good, when they're playing at a high tempo. So it's something that I think they have to get better at, and they will, because the manager has just recently changed things and brought players in. So I think the more that they play, the more we'll see it, but move the ball really quickly.
A couple more in this game before I move on. Nico Raskan, you mentioned in there, he has been fantastic the last few weeks. And it's interesting because he has been on his own in that role, if you like. Connor Barron, who we all praise so much on this show throughout the season, hasn't been a regular guaranteed starter of late. And in a strange kind of way, Alan, it's allowed Raskan the freedom to kind of hover and do what he does on the football pitch. And he has been one of the outstanding players.
I think you're spot on. I mean, I thought he was brilliant in the final. I thought he played brilliant in European nights as well. He was excellent the other day. I think you kind of see everything that he's got. He's aggressive. He can win the ball back. He's got a decent range of passing. He keeps the ball moving. He keeps it ticking on. And sometimes I think, especially at Ibrox against the likes of Dundee, no disrespect to them, but you don't need 2 sitters. You don't need him and Barron playing together. I just don't think it's needed. So it does give him that little bit of license and freedom to roam about in that area and try and kind of break up play and then get things started. So it was difficult for him with the injuries and different things, and I actually thought that he was out of favour, to be quite honest with you. So I'm coming back in, getting the game time, an opportunity to really shine. He's grabbed it with both hands, and at this moment in time, he has to be like the main starter, especially when it comes into midfield.
Probably as he's looked as well. Go on, Michael.
I was just going to say, do you think his form's coincided with Huts becoming his personal chef?
It's got to be the diet. It's got. To, he's never looked fitter. What Alan didn't say, Michael.
Come on, I'll show you what to eat. Don't worry.
How many are coming around for Christmas? Al's at 13.
13 plus Raskin, so 14.
That's what I was going to say. You better get an extra chair in there because Raskin's coming round for. Really. And listen, just
not a problem.
This game. Actually, not so much on this game, Michael, but was there a bit of a revelation from you at the weekend, Michael? This was reported online. I didn't hear you say it, but there was a lot of talk about Dessers last week in this show and not taking a penalty in the final. Did you say at the weekend that you had it on good authority that he wanted to take a penalty and the manager said?
Yep. I heard, on good authority that he did. In fact, he'd been practicing all week and was up for it, but it was the manager's decision on the 5 penalty takers. So
when did Alan text and tell you that?
But genuinely, I heard that they had been practicing them, and I'd done that at teams before, and every session that they do, they actually mark down where you put it, if you scored, if you didn't, and then they come up with, obviously, this guy's got X amount percent chance of scoring, and that's how they've worked it. So that's why seemingly Yilmaz took one, because he's meant to be really good. But doing it in training and doing it in a cup final is completely different, in my opinion. So
it is completely different. But the thing is, I thought about it at the time, thinking, and the person was messaging as well, saying it was poor on the manager not to come out and articulate that it was his decision. But very quickly, if the manager was to come out and say, look, I made the decision, it moves swiftly on to, okay, so you think that Jack Butland and Yilmaz is a better option than your main number 9 striker? And I think
As you open up a can of worms a wee bit.
yes, it just
Maybe
strikes.
he's right though.
Well, it is, but what I was going to say was it strikes at the whole bigger topic and situation surrounding Cyril Dessers in that he's not a number 9 for Rangers. And ultimately now he's not first choice. And Rangers as a whole, I've got to say, look so much better. When you look at that front line, when you're talking to Al about the game at the weekend against Dundee, and not just Dundee, but Cherny, I think you could see early on he was a good player, but he's just got better and better. He's become more aggressive, more direct, quicker, and Hadji's coming back as an option. You have that ability to then play Bayrami as a 10 rather than off the wing, which I'm still looking for more from him. But there's options. Danilo's back fit. Egeman doesn't sit as like just a number 9. He moves around a lot more. So I think that whole front line looks better with those players that are in there now rather than Cyril Dessers. So as much as he might have wanted to take a penalty, I think the manager was probably right in the call. And I said it on the day that if Dessers had been walking up to take the penalty kick, the Rangers fans would have been thinking, oh no, they would have. And that's
going to need 3.
Problem.
You might need 3 chances.
Obviously, the manager was thinking the same, Michael, because he didn't let him take one. Right, anyway, onwards. Ross County, St Mirren, another good 3 points for Stephen Robinson and St Mirren. Another game with an interesting outcome, if you like, an interesting end to the match for St Mirren. They've had a few of these recently, Michael, but there's also some VAR decisions that we need to look at as the highlights go through here. But just first of all, on St Mirren, deserve a lot of credit the way they've bounced back in recent weeks.
Yep, absolutely. Starting to, string together some positive results, and they're now moving up the table. This was obviously Tanser.
What are you thinking about that one, Michael?
The first
when I first seen it, I was like, wow. I was like, he's got away with one there.
I think the fact that it's like, face on, the two of them are so flattered into each other, I think was probably enough for him to get away with a yellow card.
I agree.
By the way, conditions were shocking in this game as well. So that's 1-1 at this point. Then Tanser sent off, Michael. There's not much in this one.
Do you know, it's difficult to see from the camera one, but when you see that angle, I'm not sure. Yes, he's sliding in, but that is, what else do you expect a player to do? His touch is a wee bit ahead of him, but he's not lunging. He's just stretching a wee bit. I think a quiet word and just saying, look, just be careful.
Yeah, so VAR can't review a second yellow. We know
Get
that.
on this, though.
Michael, VAR shouldn't Alan, let's bring you in. VAR shouldn't even need to review this.
Mental.
Taylor on Brophy, that's a stone waller for me. I'm sorry, it's so clumsy. He's never even going to get the ball. Brophy's trying to bring it down to his chest, and he just gets whacked from behind. How is it not a penalty? And even that.
And in this one, it's like, all right, whatever you can do, I can do
bang,
better.
Get off. He's literally going to have a shot and goal. That's a great free kick.
Brilliant. Brilliant
it
finish
looks
to the
like
game. Yeah, brilliant.
He's lost the wind there. And it's,
Look, fantastic finish to the game for St Mirren, especially been down to 10 men. But the referees, and we'll continue this chat when we maybe look back now on the Friday night game, Motherwell against Kilmarnock. You guys were there, right? Because the red card in this game, you'll see, if anyone hasn't seen this so far this weekend, is got to be one of the worst I've ever seen. Now, referees have to make decisions in the pitch, but VAR are there to help. And I can't get my head round what I've seen again this weekend. After the debate last weekend about referees, look, I actually said about a year and a half ago that I'm not sure we should have VAR in this country yet if we don't have enough good enough officials who can actually help oversee VAR. And at the moment, it feels like we need better refereeing decisions, and there maybe should be more money spent on training up better refs. And maybe I'm being harsh there, Michael, but some of the calls that we're seeing, including in Motherwell Kilmarnock, have been just shocking and unbelievable to watch on and see them not being changed, or VAR not telling the referee to go and review the monitor, or the ref going to a monitor and deciding, I'll stick with my decision.
What a rant that was, Darryl.
I'm sorry.
You got it off your chest. Well done.
I told you it's been coming. But honestly, let's have a look at Motherwell Kilmarnock if we've got it, and we can talk a little bit about the game as well. But some of the decisions in the match and the red card here for Dan Casey, just unbelievable, Michael.
Yeah, obviously this is Liam Gordon's goal that set off proceedings. But that first half at Fir Park was peppered with the referee blowing his whistle.
This is a penalty too, by the way.
Oh, it's a
It is
penalty. It's a penalty.
Well, see, the thing is, see in real time, you can't tell definitively.
But that's
you
what
did-
VAR's for.
Yeah, I know. But what you definitively knew was
Look
that
there,
it
boom.
wasn't a free kick to Motherwell.
Yeah.
You knew that straight away. And then you look at it from VAR and you go, hold on a minute, that actually is a penalty kick. Crazy.
Oxborough probably should save that, obviously.
Yes. It's no probable, it's an
Yeah.
absolute definitive. He should have saved it. As much as this is a definitive, never been a real red card in a month of Sundays. It's utterly astonishing. When you watch it in real time as well, it's not even forceful.
No.
And you know what I find utterly ridiculous is when you find, getting into a sort of debate about why the ref might have done this, why try to play devil's advocate at times, and you just go, forget all that. There is no balance in this debate. It's just never a red card. Just look at what happens. It's simply not a red card. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't grab. He doesn't push. He doesn't punch. He's just trying to get. Danny Armstrong grabs his arm. He's just trying to shake him off. Like, get
It's
away.
actually his top. It's actually his top that slides up with his arm.
Is
Let's
this a
see if
case,
that's
though,
me.
Alan? Is this a case of a referee being sent to monitor? And listen, I think we've all said at times, referees have been sent over. And if they truly believe in their decision, if they've seen it in real time in the pitch, stick with it. Be brave enough to stick with it.
Well,
But
he's
what
obviously
is he
brave
looking
enough.
at there, though, Alan, to make him think when he's been shown that replay that that's a red card and I'm right?
I've no idea. Honestly, I've got no idea. If it was me and I was refereing that game, I'm going up to them and saying, "Come on, cut it out, you two, get on with it."
Aye,
Carry
it's
on.
not even a yellow. It's not even
Like
a yellow.
literally carry on. He's been pulled in the arm. Casey's went to push him off. His top's actually slipped up with his arm. And I would just be like, look, come on, boys, enough of this. Like, just get on with the game. Stop,
Totally.
cut it out. And that's it, move on.
Aye.
Yeah, I had a
Like,
slightly tongue-in.
So he's been asked. No,
Yeah.
but he's been asked to go to the monitor because they're saying, oh, look, we think you've made a mistake here. And fair play, you can say, right, well, he stuck it by his decisions and he's kept it. But it was laughable. For me, personally, I thought it was a poor decision.
Yeah, after the cup final as well, there's a lot of scrutiny on referees right now. It feels awful. This is our last conversation, by the way, in the show before Christmas. But Michael, there's been a lot of scrutiny on the refs right now. They need to start getting it right. The post I made the other day on X, I think it's called now, was that there'll be more Willie Collum apologies than right decisions soon if it keeps on going like this. And it feels like that's the case because, of course, they've got the VAR review show at the moment going on. It's a bit embarrassing, is it not?
How long did it take you to think of that post, Darryl? That was quite inventive.
Yeah, no, I read it. Somebody sent me it.
Um,
I've got nothing better to do these days.
Look, I think we need to be fair here. Over the piece, up until now, things have been far superior this season than last. The last probably month to 6 weeks, there's starting to be a wee bit of a creep of some poor decisions coming back in. They need to turn it around again. And if they do, then this can just be looked upon as a wee blip. If it continues on a downward trajectory, then there's some serious concern. Time will tell in the new year. But, it's festive period. Let's have a wee bit of festive spirit and give them a wee bit of a break, Darryl, and stop being so harsh.
Apologies to the refs. It's a difficult job, but you must do better, okay? It's the Christmas wish coming from this show.
Agreed.
Right, here we better round it up now, Al. We better let you go because you're about to start cooking. Is that correct? 2 days in advance?
Prep.
Yeah, I need to start now because there's prep work. Prep is key. If you do your prep, everything comes together on the day. No problem.
There you go. Michael, hint for this show as well, okay? Prep is everything. Prep is everything. Right, we're done. We're out of time. Alan, Michael, absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the show. And we are back next Monday as well to bring in the new year for you. I think it's on the 30th. So we're back on the Social Club next Monday. Thank you for watching. We will see you then. Have a great Christmas.
The Scottish Football Social Club is brought to you by McBookie.com. Take a lookie at McBookie today.